to be with our friends at Hangi Christmas Tree Farm. So I am going to just give you a little bit of background, right? A couple things you need to know. During this conversation and virtual field trip, you are going to be able to submit your own questions. I hope you've had a chance to think about what you might want to know about a Christmas tree farm. You're going to learn a lot from Miss Kristen, but you are also going to have a chance to ask great questions about what you see and what you hear during the field trip. You can submit those questions using the Q&A box. So there's no chat. Don't look for the chat box. You want to use the Q&A box and submit your questions, and we will try to get to as many questions as we can. We are going to kind of move fast and furious. You're going to learn about everything there is to know about a Christmas tree farm today. And we are excited to have this annual holiday celebration with all of you in classrooms across the state. So I am pleased to introduce to you Miss Kristen Hangi, and her daughter Kaylin is with us also. Hi, Kristen.
Hi guys, welcome to Hangi's Christmas Tree Farm. Right now we are standing in the front of our barn. Behind us we have the Hangi home. Currently my husband's grandparents live there. Some fun facts about our farm is that the house is the second house to be constructed in Naples, New York. It was constructed in 1795. The home and farm property have actually only been occupied by two families. The Clark family, Colonel William Clark and his family. He was a colonel in the Revolutionary War, which is cool. Um, my husband's great grandfather, Samuel Hangi, bought the property directly from the Clarks. So the Clarks and the Hangis have been the only families to farm on this property. All the way up the hill used to all be grape vineyards. Naples used to be one of the largest grape villages or towns in New York State, and all the woodlands used to be grapes back in the day. There's actually a railroad bed that runs directly behind the house, and the farmers would bring down the grapes off the hill, put them directly onto the railroad and the railroad carts, and it would go straight to Woodmer's, or it would go to the bottom of our lake and then get moved up north a little bit more. In 1975, my husband's grandfather started to plant his own Christmas trees, and that's where we're located now. In the late 80s, 1988, I believe it was, my father-in-law, David Hangi, started planting Christmas trees on his own location. And that's currently our second location where we offer strictly U-cut trees. We are altogether, we have our farm is about 90 acres, and we are currently farming about 15 acres of that as Christmas trees. So behind us, well, in front of us, we have one of our fields that we are starting to regrow and overturn. So this means that all of the trees have been purchased and planted, and now we are replanting them with new trees. So you can see there's a lot of little trees, and then we have a few bigger trees in this field. Um, every every March, April time is when we are typically going through the fields and planting. My husband Ben over here, he has our interplanter auger. Um, so what we have to do, because we can't really get big machines in here because all the big trees are in the way. So what we do is we have these handheld augers that we bring down. We hook up a bucket with water in it, and we have these saplings that are roughly 12 to 18 inches tall. He gets where he wants to plant a tree, and he puts all of his weight into it and starts to push down, drilling a hole. It's a little cold, the ground's a little frozen, so it's not working very well. But once the hole is dug, then we can plant a small Christmas tree in it.
And Miss Kristen, where do you buy your Christmas tree starts from, or do you start them yourself?
We do not start them ourselves. Um, For demonstration purposes only, this is just a twig. It's not an actual sapling, just so everybody knows. It won't survive right now. But we get our saplings from nurseries. They specialize in growing baby trees. So their majority sole job is to get trees as pine cones. They develop those seeds into little saplings, and they have them growing in special beds for roughly 3 years. By the time they are 12 to 18 inches tall, they're about 3 years old at that point, and then we start planting. So right behind Ben, or even this one here, is a tree that we planted last year. That one might be actually 2 years old. And then this one's probably a 3-year-old tree. Once they get to be about this height, this is when we start really watching them and looking at them. We have this top ring of branches here is what we call a whorl, and then we call this a leader. It's really important that we are looking at all of these little nubs and nodules to see how the tree is growing. Next year, right out of this center, will be the next leader to grow straight up. And then the whorl, all of these will be branches. And then all of these little nodules will also fill in as branches. So this whole tree will be grown up. As we are working through the Christmas tree fields, we're looking at different tops and directionality of branches. We have this one here who is kind of, looks like it might have had an injury at some point. And we are trying to figure out what direction that tree should grow in. It's kind of got two heads that it's trying to go. So there's a few different things we can do. For this guy, we would trim about right here to get that guy out of there. So these guys will come straight out. And this one, hopefully this one will throw a leader and it'll come up this way and straighten out this tree. Sometimes we have trees that got a little wonky and they come a little crooked. So we have special tools to help straighten out some of our branches or our leaders. So we find an anchor point, which is that first hook. We wrap that around the main base of the tree, and then we wrap the rest of the hook around, and it straightens out some of those silly little tops. When we're trimming our trees in September, these guys, sometimes they get really, really tall, and if they're too tall, birds might land on them. And unfortunately, that's sometimes what causes this, or it actually could snap it right off. So when we're clipping, we're looking at all these nodules to see which direction the tree might grow in, so that we can best prepare the tree. This limb is, or this leader is kind of going to the left a little bit. So the person that trimmed this decided that they want this top nodule to bring the tree back out a little bit more.
So, Miss Kristen, you're telling me that you look at your Christmas trees more than just this season.
Oh yes, we are farming Christmas trees all year round. As you can see, we have some cover crop. We have clover planted here, which adds a lot of vitamins and nutrition to the soil. So we have to mow this at least every 2 to 3 weeks. And then the trees themselves are touched 3 to 4 times a year, each tree. So once they get to be a little bit more mature, like this tree here, this tree will probably start throwing pine cones this year. And we have to remove all of those pine cones. We want the tree's source of energy to be really focusing on growth and not reproducing more trees, because we get them somewhere else. So we don't need this tree to do that. We want it to grow and be big and beautiful, and worry about all these little nodules that it has to produce. So when we hit August, September, October, that's when we really start giving them haircuts. It's called shearing or pruning. And we use this nifty little tool. It kind of looks like a weed eater, but it's got blades at the bottom. And so that turns really, really, really fast. And those hooks catch the tree limbs and kind of chops them off. And we can turn right here. I'm going to go to your left. So right, nope, too far. So this tree right here was pruned last year. So you can see these sap endings, and that's where that blade came around and cut those limbs. and starts to give it its shape. Here on the property, we have 5 different varieties that we are producing. We have Canaan fir, concolor fir, Fraser fir, Douglas fir, and balsam fir.
Miss Kristen, that actually lends to one of our questions really well. Gemma wants to know what is the hardest and easiest types of trees to grow?
Ooh, it really depends on your soils. So our Douglas, I would say, is probably our hardest to grow. Unfortunately, Douglas is susceptible to needle casting, which is a disease that makes their needles fall off. So we are what's called a monoculture, meaning that we only have one species of um, plants that we're producing. So if a bug comes in or a disease comes in, it really wipes out a lot of our trees because there's no diversity. Diversity is super, super important in keeping things healthy. And unfortunately, in Christmas tree farms, we don't have it so much. But probably Fraser firs are one of our easiest to grow with our soil. It's also a super popular tree. Um, and Canaan firs. They do really well with our soils. And then there's um, concolor, which is doing really well for us. They can be planted in more clay areas and have a little bit more wet soils. So we are in different elevation levels, and we have some different plains that collect water a little bit, and we have really clay soil. So that those type of trees do really well for us.
We're getting some questions, and they love our students would love to know how long do the trees live? How long are they growing on your farm before they're in somebody's home?
Typically, we are at that 6, 7, 8 range. It could be a little bit longer depending on the height of your tree. It is, we estimate roughly a foot of growth each year. So for this tree here, this is about a 3-foot tree if you went here, but all of this will fill in. So this tree next year, if somebody came to our farm, would be this tall. So it takes about a year to get a foot. So
Awesome.
if
And
you would
now,
have a
if
nine
I
foot tree,
came to
9
your
years. Yeah,
Christmas tree farm and I wanted to cut a tree, what would that experience look like?
absolutely. So Kaylin and Benjamin have picked out a Christmas tree for our home. We have a tradition that we try to get the silliest Charlie Brown tree we can find. We like really unique trees, and we also try to save our really, really, really nice trees for our customers. So Ben's actually going to cut one down for us. When you come to our farm, you'd be greeted at uh, our front staging area, and then, uh, excuse me, I apologize. Then you can get your saw and start looking around our fields. This is very much a self-service, you choose type of thing. So you can get your absolute perfect tree. So this this is a pretty good tree, yeah. So this tree would not necessarily be our ideal tree for selling because there's it's kind of crooked. It's yeah, sparse. There's not a lot of volume in between the branches. So this is one that we kind of don't like to see in the field too much because we like very thick, beautiful trees to sell. So when you come to the farm, we have hand saws, and then we also operate electric saws. Unfortunately, with New York State regulation, most people can't use a chainsaw. It unfortunately goes against our insurance. So once you get your tree cut, you get to carry it or drag it up to our staging area. Once you
So,
get the
classrooms and friends listening, let it not be lost on you that the Christmas tree farmers do not pick the most perfect Christmas tree in the field.
I don't think we've ever had a perfect Christmas tree. This one's kind of silly because it looks like it's got three heads. Um, my kids like to name them and kind of make it fun. So as we're coming around the building, we'll start to see our staging area, and this is where we shake the tree. Tree gets a little dance. We drill a hole in the bottom of the tree, and we bale it to make it easier to get into your home.
And do your customers usually do all three of those things, or can they choose if they want it baled or if they want it shaken or not?
Absolutely. Great question. Absolutely. They can choose one of the three, none of the three, all of the three, whatever they need to make their tree absolutely perfect. So one of the reasons we shake is inside of the tree, you can see some of these brown needles. These needles are from last year. So every time a tree grows, it grows off of the end. And then sometimes they have leftover needles from last year. So we shake those to get those needles out. All right. Ben is going to trim around the bottom a little bit. So this allows for all of those presents to get under your tree. And then he is going to always take, oh, we have short ceilings. Lots of presents, Kaylin. And then we also give a fresh cut. So at the bottom of the tree, this is actually quite tacky. And you can actually, that's actually sap from earlier. All of these, can you, I can see it. I don't know if you guys can see it. What happens is the sap starts to come out of the end of the stump, and it actually forms a scab. We call them a sap cap or a sap scab. And what that does is it protects the tree so that it can last a little bit longer. But when we are putting these into our homes, we want all of this to be exposed so it can take up and drink lots and lots of water. So we we, we want to make sure that you have a fresh cut within the hour that you are going to put your tree in your home. Yes. So these rings are super, super cool because you can count the rings to see how old the tree is. And you can tell if it was a really good growing year because it's all stuck to me. You'll see something maybe a little closer together, and then you'll see some gapping, and that is all of the growth that happened for that tree that year. All right, you want to throw them up on the shaker?
Miss McKee's class wants to know what's the biggest tree you've ever grown?
Probably about on our normal big trees are typically 12 to 13 foot tall. We've had a few bigger ones, but when we grow them that tall, we have to, a bird's nest just fell out of that tree. So this tree is outside. So the birds will come in and lay a nest in there. So it's supposed to be good luck. If you find a bird's nest in your tree, you're supposed to get good luck for that year.
Oh, you're gonna have great luck
So
then, Miss
I hope
Kristen.
so. So when the trees get super, super tall, it is hard for us to trim. We do everything by hand. So if they're really tall, it means we have to carry our equipment plus ladders to get to the top. That's why this one got a little squirrely at the top, is because it's really hard to prune those trees. Our biggest Christmas tree that we have is actually that one right next to Grandma and Grandpa's house. We're not allowed to cut that one, but I hope to decorate it with Christmas lights next year. All right, so then our step 2 is to drill the tree. So this machine actually has a giant drill bit at the bottom, and then it has these guides on the machine that help make sure the tree is super, super straight. And it is used for these special Christmas stands, which once they're done, I'll show you. So it took him a minute because it's a little bit of a crooked tree by nature. Um, and he wanted to make sure it's as straight as possible. So with those guides, what that does is it allows us to bring the tree home and we put it right into our stand. We have to line up the stand with this peg. And then she's set up.
I think
Bro,
that's pretty amazing, Miss Kristen. I spend a lot of time with my family getting it straight
it
for you.
it does. It takes a lot of time to do the strings and the twisty knobs and the anchors. So this is a perfect system. We've only been selling this for 2-3 years now. So more people are starting to get these stands, but they're fantastic. And then when you're ready to pull it off, you stand on your base, you twist your tree, and it pops off. You want to stick your foot in there, babe? There's no water in it, so it's a little harder to pop off right now. Pull straight. Pull, twist and pull. So before you take it home, we have baling services. All of our bales down here are manually operated, meaning that we pull them through. We have this orange cone that goes around the tree, and then it is squished down from a chunky tree. He's gonna have to put some muscle into this one. And then it makes it nice and wrapped up so it's easy to get into your house.
Now, Miss Kristen, we have students who want to know, Mrs. Roberson's class specifically, they want to know how many families come to your farm each year?
That's a great question. We are a growing business. So a few years ago, it was just a couple hundred, and now we're seeing somewhere in the ballpark of 600 to 800 families coming every year, to our farm, and we keep growing each year. So it's really fun to meet new people.
So after we get our tree all packaged, what else can we see while we're there at your farm?
Absolutely. So we take a lot of these greens that have come off the bottom of the tree, and we can upcycle them to make different products. We have a range of products that we can offer. Earlier in the season, this is all filled up with Christmas trees, and the wall behind Mr. Best is filled with wreaths and other green decor. All of this stuff is made right on our farm. And sorry, the donkey and the pony heard us, and now they know we're coming down to see them, so they're super excited. um, all of this greenery is directly from our farm and made right here. So once we get our greens, we stage them here where our wreath makers and our garland makers can have access to fresh greens. And then we have this lovely heated shop with Miss Ava. She is our wreath maker. She's actually made all of our wreaths this year. And this is her second year working with us. She's actually a former student of mine, so it makes it fun. I've been working with her for several years. This is our garland. A different Ava makes this garland, but it's very thick and voluptuous. To make it, I gotta undo that. We grab a few branches and we tie on our roping and our metal. I'm gonna steal a few more. And so we take a branch and we lay some greens on it. And then we kind of bunch it all together so it looks like a nice fan. We place it, which way were you going? You're going that way. We'll place it on top, and then we just spin this and pull a little bit, and it ties it right together. So then here on this finished piece, we have one bundle, two bundle, and she just keeps running them all together. The branches all overlap, which makes for a strong, sturdy product that you can bend and manipulate around doorways or mantelpieces and all that good stuff. For our, Ava is making a 5-foot ring. So for hers, she is working with a mixed green bunch. Looks like she's got some Fraser, some Canaan, and Douglas in there. Um, she makes a variety of different sizes. We have 7 different sizes, all the way from a 10-inch wreath to a 5-foot wreath. These bigger, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Miss Haskell's second grade class is wondering how long does it take to make a wreath?
That is a great question. So the rings that are smaller, which is our traditional 22-inch wreath, that takes her about 8 to 9 minutes. And these ones, they're taking her closer to 45. There is, do you know how many clamps are on this one? 48 clamps on this 5-foot ring. So it takes her quite a few. And with these ones, they have to be super careful because if her bundles are not almost perfect and symmetrical and the same, then she might have a lopsided wreath or just might look kind of wavy. So she does a really good job at recreating her bundles every single time. There's a lot of practice. Ava works for us 8 hours a day, almost 7 days a week for a few weeks. She has made over 300 wreaths at this point in her season with us this year.
Does Ava decorate the wreath also?
Ava does a little bit of decorating. My mother-in-law really does all of the decorating. She hand ties every single bow. So for every wreath, every kissing ball, any ornament that comes out or any decoration that comes out of here, my mother-in-law actually hand ties all of those bows. Some fun stuff that we have. Oh, I didn't see the blue earlier. We actually paint our Christmas trees as well. And some of our most popular colors are the blue and the purple. We also have done American flag trees. We've done pink trees. We've done, oh yes, we did black. We did a black tree last year. They were actually quite popular. The really cool thing about this paint is that it is a food grade, biodegradable paint. So what that means is if we're spraying this paint outside in our woods and our field lots, if there's any animals that come in, it's totally safe for them. It's totally safe for the environment because it's biodegradable. And then the food grade part comes in handy when you have pets or young siblings that might explore the tree with something other than their fingers. So it's safe for the needles to be consumed. The other really cool thing about this is even though we paint them, it still allows the tree to grow. So the blue is from last year. We painted it last year. It stayed in the field. And then all this green is what was grown this year. So that's pretty cool. These make for really fun, almost tie-dyed looking Christmas trees that we had a few of.
The fifth graders at West Annapolis are wondering, do you sell more trees or wreaths each season?
Trees. We sell about twice the amount of trees that we sell in wreaths.
Mason from Miss Prue's class wants to know how hard do you have to push that pedal to close those metal pieces on the wreath?
Here, give us 1 second and we can show you. It is not a stomp. It's very much a light pressure. But you got to have a little bit of oomph. I don't want to rush you. Are you good with this one? Especially what? Yes, her bundles are super thick. So if you see, she has a full handheld on that. So it's a really thick bundle. They are a little bit bigger than the ones she would use for her smaller wreaths. So she puts her whole weight into it. She's like 120 pounds. So that's about the amount of force. There's one thing I forgot to mention with the upcycling. This is her scrap bin, but we actually use all of this stuff one more time. So we take these sprigs and we add them into our kissing balls. I'll show you what those look like. So we have a huge amount of extra things that we try to do. We have doorway hangers of 7 different varieties of Christmas or of wreaths. We have or sizes of wreaths. Then we have our cross wreaths. We have sweeps and swags, all sorts of things. The other thing we have are our kissing balls. The kissing balls take about an hour to make. So this is a kissing ball. The original tradition for these was from the medieval time. They actually took vines and brush and weaved them into a giant ball, and they hung them from the medieval castle ceilings. And at the bottom of it, where these tassels are, they actually hung mistletoe off. So that's where we got that original tradition of mistletoe. As our housing got smaller, the balls got smaller. Eventually, mistletoe took over that tradition. But over the last 20 or so years, we have been making our kissing balls and reintroducing that tradition back into our Christmases. My apologies. So we take these sprigs and we put them into this styrofoam ball multiple times. And as I said, it takes about an hour to make them. This bow is hand tied by my mother-in-law. So there's a lot of effort that goes into this.
So, Miss
One,
Kristen, as we
yeah,
move and transition over to see our next set of friends, Miss Tamarillo's class wants to know, do animals eat your Christmas trees?
yes. So we do our best to not spray, which makes them completely safe for sheep, goats, and reindeer. All right, so this is our gift shop. This is our second year with our gift shop. We have been working on renovating our barn. So the wood on the bottom of the rail is actually from the outside boards. They're probably about 100 years old. So it's really cool that we got to move those inside when we redid the outside of the barn and repurpose those. The first thing you saw when you came in was our little mini Santas. We do our best to make as much of our stuff that we can in-house. So my husband and some of our helpers made the Santas. We make all of our shirts in-house. There's a lot of things in here. And if we don't make it, we are working with local vendors to help them as well. So we hold those glass ornaments are locally made. The soaps are made right here in New York State, as well as the candles. All of the metal signs and ornaments are made actually by our neighbor. So we keep that pretty local. We do some more repurposing or upcycling things. So these ornaments actually have reindeer hair in them and magic elf glitter that we work with Santa to get. One of the cool traditions about these ornaments is that come Christmas Eve, they might not stay in place. Between the elf magic and the reindeer hair, something happens. We're not quite sure. We haven't narrowed it down yet, but something happens. We have maple syrup that we produce right here on the farm. Next year, we're hoping to expand to honey. And then we also make Ava, who you saw making our wreaths. She makes all of our reindeer antler jewelry. And then
So
keeping
speaking
warm. Yeah, go
speaking
ahead.
of reindeer,
Yeah,
maybe we just have about 4 or so minutes left, so maybe we
all
should
righty.
move on to our see some other friends that you might have there on the farm.
Yes. As we're leaving, my father-in-law, David Hangi, and Celeste Hangi, and my youngest are keeping warm in the gift shop. All right, so we're gonna come on down. So one of the things we started offering 3 years ago was the visit of our reindeer friends. And then last year, we were able to open up Reindeer Landing, which is an interactive animal encounter. So our visitors come in and they can meet all of the animals we have on our farm. So we try to make this as fun as possible. It's all inside, so no matter how crazy the weather is outside, um, our friends get us inside. If you come get vegetables to feed bunnies, these guys are mini Rexes. They are about 10 weeks old and very curious. What are you doing? The black and white one is my youngest favorite. And then we have a mama and her babies that some of our friends can handle. Come here, my lady. This is my lady and her babies. These guys are about 4 weeks old. And then we have our chicken friends. Wait, wait, wait. Stay inside, stay inside. And with these guys, they actually will come right up and they will eat food out of your hands, kind of aggressively today. Ouch. These chickens are kind of cool. They're my daughter's 4-H projects. So she's been working with a lot of different genetics and different types of reindeer. Over here, we have Annie and Danny. These girls love to eat right out of your hand. Danny is new this year to our farm. We were able to win a contest at our local VFW, and with my portions of what we won, I brought home Danny. She is named after our commander, Matt Tierson. And so she's been a fun addition that we take to different events, and we've brought her down to our local VFW. Our next pen that we have is Mama Barbie and a couple of her babies. We have Reba, Randy, and Alan. These guys have been super fun. The kids can get right in here and sit with them and snuggle the piggies and learn about all of the sounds that piggies make. They like to talk a lot. And then our biggest attraction is definitely our namesake for the reindeer. The girls, I just put some down there, so now they're not going to eat up here. So in the green halter is Cindy Lou, and in the red halter is Martha May. These girls were born in Washington State, all the way across the country, and they are about 1.5 years old. So the antlers that you saw up top, those came off of our bull. His name is Chet. And every year they shed these antlers, and so we'll end up with lots and lots of antlers. So we try to figure out what we can do with them, and we've made jewelry has definitely been a fan favorite for us.
So our students received, some of our students received an inquiry box, and they had some feed pellets. And so that is maybe what our
Yes.
reindeer are just eating.
Yes, so that's what they eat, is they eat a sweet feed. So it's got a feed pellet on it, and it's just got a little bit of molasses, which is basically sugar. So they kind of like the sweet stuff over the veggies.
We have a fun question from Villa Maria School. What is it about a Christmas tree that makes them smell so good?
That's the needles. The needles are super, super fragrant. That's a fantastic question. Each species of evergreen actually smells different. My favorite is the concolor. It has a super, super long, bushy needle, and it makes for a really chunky tree. And when you break the needles, they smell like citrus. Oh, Cindy got her head stuck. Not uncommon.
Well, Miss Kristen,
Yeah.
we are at the end of our time. Thank you so much. I know this is such a busy season for you and your family. And thank you for taking time to show us around your farm and how wonderful your operation is. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for touring. We appreciate it.
Thanks to all of our classrooms for listening in. We appreciate you. Have a great holiday season.